An event is being held at Queen's Park to unveil a statue honoring Lincoln Alexander, a former Lieutenant Governor of Ontario and the first Black Canadian Member of Parliament. Let's listen in.
And the resulting and continuing generational trauma. Therefore, we also honor and pay tribute to the ancestors of African origin and descent. Let us not say these words in vain as repetitions, but let us pause and reflect on the roads paved and the sacrifices made by our ancestors. We live in a land with many opportunities, and we are thankful for that. And with that, I invite Coco Lorraine to sing our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home on native land, true patriot love in all our sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, our true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for
Please be seated, and thank you, Coco. Now today, the Honorable Lincoln Macaulay Alexander, or Link as he was affectionately known to us, would have marked his 102nd birthday. Today also marks the 10th year we are recognizing Lincoln Alexander Day. Many of us in this room were lucky enough to get to know the man at many community events. We got to introduce him, sit on stage with him, break bread with him. And my favorite thing about Link is when he'd see you, he'd squeeze you and say, "How you doing, young fella?" That was all the time. We love them very much. That's why I want to thank the committee for allowing me to be part of this celebration. We're here to create a permanent commemoration to recognize the Honorable Lincoln Macaulay Alexander. Now, this bust will sit in a place of honor here at Queen's Park, honoring the man whose life was an exemplary example of service, humility, dedication, and commitment to community, and always fighting for racial equity in our country, Canada. This bus will also be a beacon of inspiration to the thousands of school children, especially children of racialized communities, and their teachers that visit Queen's Park for school trips, as many of us did as we were little guys. On June 25th, 1968, the same year that the civil rights movement in the U.S. was exploding with the assassination of Dr. King, Lincoln Macaulay Alexander became Canada's first Black member of Parliament in the House of Commons. Yes, that deserves applause. On September 20th, 2 days before I was born actually, 1968, he made his maiden speech in the House of Commons, famously saying, "I am not the spokesman for the Negro. That honor has not been given to me. Do not let me ever give anyone that impression. However, I want the record to show that I accept the responsibility of speaking for him and all others in this great nation who feel that they are the subjects of discrimination because of race, creed, or color." Please give a warm welcome to our co-host of this event, the Honorable Ted Arnott, Speaker of the Legislature Assembly of Ontario.
Well, thank you, Dwight. Good afternoon. It's great to be here and great to see all of you here at Queen's Park as we gather to honor and remember one of Canada's finest public servants whose personal decency and trailblazing accomplishments inspire us to this day. It is fitting and appropriate that we unveil this likeness of Link and display it here at Queen's Park so that a new generation of Canadians can learn about the man he was and the timeless values that he lived by, implicitly encouraging us to carry those values on. I want to thank the many MPPs who are here with us today from all sides of the House, and I want to acknowledge Rosemary Sadler and the entire Link Committee for their work in making this day a reality, in collaboration with artist Quentin Versetti, Licensed to Learn, the Black Opportunity Fund, and our Parliamentary Protocol and Public Relations branch who worked so hard to prepare for this day. Let's thank them. Each of us here has played a part of Link's legacy and contributed to this day in some way, whether we knew him personally or benefited from his life of service and the barriers that he shattered for the next generation of leaders to follow in his footsteps. For those of us who are privileged to meet and know Link, I'm sure we all have our own special memories. I want to share one of mine with you today, and it's one that I also shared with the legislature during debate on the Lincoln-Alexander Day Act in 2013, more than 10 years ago. Lincoln Alexander was the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario when I was first elected to the legislature in 1990. When he would come into the chamber here at Queen's Park for a throne speech or some other special occasion, he had a bearing and a manner that was ironically both regal and down to earth at the same time. But it was his sense of humor that endeared him to everyone who knew him. As chairman of the Ontario Heritage Trust, Link visited Wellington County in the summer of 2008 to help unveil a historical heritage plaque at Glen Allen, recognizing the Queen's Bush settlement, which was a community of 2,000 black settlers, many of whom had been escaped slaves who had come to Canada from the southern United States via the Underground Railroad. "Good afternoon, Your Honor," I said as I greeted him. "They said there'd be some big shots here," he said. I smiled, protesting that I didn't really see myself as a big shot. He said, "All of you MPPs think you're big shots." We both laughed, remembering that he too had been a parliamentarian and so was very much a big shot himself by his own definition. But only if he had known then that one day we would gather here to unveil his bust, memorializing his big shot status in the halls of Queen's Park, on display for all visitors, and larger than life. And while he may have said it in jest, he certainly does fit the definition, a person of consequence or prominence. The Honourable Lincoln Macaulay Alexander really was a big shot, a man whose political appeal crossed party lines and whose life was an example of service, perseverance, humility, humanity, and principles that we should all aspire to embody. Link inspired thousands of young Canadians with his life story and his example of overcoming discrimination, pursuing excellence, and working for a better Canada. And his story will continue to inspire visitors through stories shared around this bust and by the accompanying displays that have been put together. Thank you all for being here today on what would have been Link's 102nd birthday, and may we continue to honor his legacy and inspire those around us the way Link inspired us. I would now like to call forward the Speaker of the House of Commons, my friend Greg Fergus, to the podium. Speaker Fergus is the founder and former co-chair of the Parliamentary Black Caucus, and most recently, the first Black Canadian elected to serve as Speaker of the House of Commons. Please join me in welcoming Speaker Fergus.
Speaker Arnott, members of Provincial Parliament, senators, distinguished guests, parliamentarians, members of the Alexander family. C'est vraiment un plaisir d'être ici aujourd'hui. Je suis tellement reconnaissant, tellement ému. C'est avec une grande humilité que je me trouve avec vous en ce jour historique. Lincoln Alexander was a man of firsts. First Black member of Parliament, first Black cabinet minister, and of course, the first Black Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. Indeed, he was the first Black person in a vice-regal position in Canada. And today, we have another first. The first sculpture of a Black person to be here in Queen's Park. Let me take a moment now to thank the many people, some of whom are here today, who have worked so hard.
We've been listening to an event being held right now at Queen's Park to unveil a statue honoring Lincoln Alexander, the former Lieutenant Governor of Ontario and the first Black Canadian Member of Parliament. We'll have a lot more on that ceremony throughout the afternoon.